In those really quick exchanges, there's definitely been moments where Pete, my bassist and MD, he'll be the one asked questions about my guitar setup every time. What she got pedal board, what's she playing into, and I'm like, I'm right here. Like, just ask me.
Hi, I'm Hannah from Enemy, and today I'm joined by Orla Gartland. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm okay. Yeah, sun's out. I'm happy as you can be in lockdown.
Excellent. And today we're talking to you because you're set to play Enemy's Girls to the Front online, which is our gig series that celebrates female and non-binary talent in the music industry. Thank you so much for playing. We can't wait to watch you next week.
Thank you.
Why is this something that you wanted to be involved in?
Well, I think whether I realize it or not, my experience in music as an artist, as a songwriter, as a producer, like, it is through the lens of being a woman, and it's easy to forget that sometimes. But then sometimes I'm in rooms or at shows or at gigs where I do become like very aware of that fact, maybe for the wrong reasons, maybe for being treated in a different way. So when I heard about it, I was just like, yeah, I love the idea of this, and I love the idea of celebrating female talent and non-binary talent. I think it's important because I think, pre COVID life, when it came to festival stages, there obviously has been a conversation happening for years about festival headliners and bookings, making sure that there's diversity. But I also think there's something great in just literally, pushing the girls to the front and letting them be the main event. I think it's great.
Have you ever had experiences when you turn up to festivals and it is kind of, I'm not going to name any names, but a sort of predominantly cisgendered male bill, and you're kind of in the minority at a festival?
Yeah, for sure. Even on my own tours, I can be a minority. And, even like I'm lucky enough to have a female drummer, and I have to say that was a really deliberate choice and quite a hard thing to sort out when we did, because the majority of session musicians are male, the majority of sound engineers are male, the majority of tour managers are male. So you really do, even in your own camp, have to go out of your way to surround yourself with women. I'm lucky to have on my like day-to-day kind of regular members of my team, my manager, my publisher, are female, and like there's a completely different energy that we have together, and I feel so lucky to have all these like really amazing, like, strong women around me that, it's not like being women is a factor of our day-to-day conversation, but there is definitely like a synergy that we have that I think would be different if those kind of characters were male. But yeah, in terms of festivals, yeah, I've definitely shown up to festivals, and festivals are such a specific experience on the tech level. You don't get your usual demands you can make. It's just like on the stage next, on the stage next. It's a really humbling experience. I was actually watching the Billie Eilish documentary last night. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I'm excited.
Yeah, she's done a film, and there's a section about her, a set she did at Coachella, and even at that level, she is being told you're gonna have to cut songs, the screen isn't working, tech issues, like it is a sort of barely organized chaos. Like, even the really high up festivals that have had a chance to play, like, it's just always so haphazard. And in those really quick exchanges, there's definitely been moments where Pete, my bassist and MD, he'll be the one asked questions about my guitar setup every time. What she got pedal board, what's she playing into, and I'm like, I'm right here. Like, just ask me. So yeah, it's the casual stuff like that. I've not had any like really horrible experiences, but I think in the moment, and especially in those quick moments, yeah, there's definitely a lot of kind of very inbuilt and kind of maybe well-meaning, but certainly present, kind of sexism happening all the time. So yeah, I've definitely had a few of those experiences.
And do you notice sort of a change in energy if you're writing in a group who are like predominantly male, or if you're writing with other women? Is it something you notice, and is it something you now prefer to do?
Yeah, for sure. A friend of mine, actually, an artist called Violet Sky, she organized a writing camp that I was part of a couple of years ago called She Writes, and it was an all-female writing camp. So female and non-binary engineers, songwriters, and producers and artists. And the atmosphere on that camp was electric. Like, it was very hard to describe, because on one level it was just a regular bunch of sessions set over a week, and the content of the session didn't feel all that different, but yet it felt massively different. And a lot of people came back from that saying that they felt way more comfortable playing instruments in a room than they may have surrounded by a bunch of dudes. So there was like a kind of level of comfort, especially when songwriting. I think songwriting is so different to gigging in that it's just so highly vulnerable, singing out an idea that's never existed before. I can't even think of anything more exposing. So if the environment isn't right, you really do notice it, and it can really make you retreat. You can make the most confident appearing people really retreat in on themselves if the setup isn't right. And I think, yeah, I've definitely had experience where it's particularly since I've started producing, I've had experiences where I've brought in like a beat to start with, or wanting to, be the person on the laptop in the session, and definitely been told in not as many words to like stay in my lane. That's not what you do. You're the artist. You can sit over there and like feel your feelings and write the lyrics, but like, I'm the man and I do the beats, And that's not even it's not necessarily a dig at me. That's more in that moment a display of someone else's insecurities. But yeah, there's definitely rooms I've been in where I feel I have to fight like twice as hard to just be heard.
Kind of looking to future now, there is more of a conversation about it. You mentioned the conversation about people are talking about festivals more, and the lineups being more gender balanced. Have you, in your time in the music industry, seen change started to happen?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel like I've been in music now for, I guess, about 5 years or so. And I think there are the classic festivals that are kind of not even worth. I think Leeds, I think they will always be predominantly male, and that's not to say that we should give up on those kind of festivals, but there are other ones that are making like significantly more of an effort, and others who the following of that festival is more open-minded to that change, because that's another thing to factor in is, there it is a different kind of clientele for all these festivals. Some people do just know what they know and like what they like, but I think there are a lot of festivals that I've seen. Like, there's a great festival down in Gloucester called Barn on the Farm that I've really loved for a couple of years. It's really small and really brilliant, and has a lot of like alt folk, kind of alt pop people playing the last couple of years. And like festivals like that, everyone's super open-minded to it being like an equal gender split, and they love that about it, or I did not say, I don't think they're filling those quotas like specifically, but like they're definitely like trying. It's definitely not like your classic like old dude lineup. So I think I've seen it happening, but it is happening slowly. And I really hope that with the time that festivals have had to take off with COVID, I really hope that the progress isn't halted, because I also really feel for festivals right now, and I understand that when they come back, they're going to have to really think about how they do business, and they're going to have, it's not, they may not feel it's the time to take risks. And so I think the progress is happening, but I like really hope that the year or maybe even 2 that festivals have to not go on, I really hope it doesn't set us back and make them make sort of safe choices lineup wise is maybe a risk, but hopefully not.
And I also wanted to ask about your new single, More Like You, which came out in January. It's such a great song. I think a song so many of us can relate to. We've all had moments when we sort of envy the apparent ease of somebody else's life. What's the response been like for you?
So great. Honestly, brilliant. I had to not necessarily fight for it to be a single, but I think in my like team and my manager and like the people who had heard it, it certainly wasn't like an obvious single. It's quite like Sound World is quite like dinky, and it has a pop, sensibility to it, like everything I end up writing does, but it definitely wasn't like the obvious one to go for. And I just had a nice feeling about it. I always liked it, and I felt there was something to it. And yeah, the response has been great. It's been really interesting to see people's interpretations of it as well. Like you said, I wrote it about like looking at someone who makes life look like too easy and just sort of rounding off all of their edges, just kind of putting them on a pedestal, an unrealistic pedestal, and just be in that moment maybe from a low place myself, being like, oh God, like it would be so much easier to just wake up tomorrow as that person. They've just got it so easy. But I've had a lot of comments, people, saying it reminds them of other really kind of niche friendship situations, or looking at an ex's new partner, or a musician looking at another musician, struggling with that comparison. Like, so it's been really, it's about something I thought was quite niche, but it's so nice to have seen it interpreted in all those different ways. And that's like all you could ever want, I think, as someone who writes songs, is for them people to see themselves in it.
And it's been taken off your upcoming debut album. Is it sort of an indicator of what's to come? Is it quite, a good idea of what's going to be, or is it a bit of an outlier on the record?
I think it's kind of both. Yeah, I think it fits in well with the rest of the ones that are to come, but I think it's always had something slightly different about it. But yeah, it's definitely the same, it's produced by me and my co-producer Tom. The band are playing on it. We all recorded them down in this amazing studio in Devon called Middle Farm. So there's definitely like a cohesive like thread that runs through the album that I was like very, very set on capturing. But I think it does have a little bit of a like unique kind of ident. So yeah, I think it's sort of both, but I definitely think it definitely, yeah, once people hear the rest of them, I think it does make sense.
How long has the debut been in the works?
About a year. I think I wrote the first song in the blissful, naive beginning of March 2020, looking out on the year, hoping it would be a great year. And actually, in a way, like it really, I really was very lucky to have something to focus on for the last year. I had started renting a studio down the road from me, and it had been the first time I'd ever made music anywhere other than my bedroom. And that really, having that consistency and somewhere else to go over the first and second lockdowns was unbelievable. Really, really grateful for that. And then when I did actually get to go to the studio later, like right at the end of 2020, I hadn't played with the band in like a year. Like it was just the biggest release of all time. Like it would have been, that event would have been so exciting for me anyway. But at the end of a year like that, it was just like all of our highlights. It felt so special because we've been sort of starved of that energy for so long. But yeah, about a year from the beginning of writing the first song to now, where I'll be like announcing it properly in the next couple of weeks.
Exciting. And because it was kind of written in such a weird time, the album you set out to make in March of last year, do you think what you've created has been quite different to what you expected?
I think yes and no. I think when lockdown hit and everyone's lives changed, I definitely made a very deliberate choice, which is that I was not going to make a lockdown album. I didn't want it to be about what happened last year or what will happen this year. I don't think music like that is going to age very well, and I don't think that's what we need coming out of this. So I definitely always wanted to have an album with dynamic, like have these sensitive moments and then have these like big, bandy moments, big energetic releases. But I think everything that happened last year, and as I started to write it definitely made me want to keep it on the upbeat side, keep it light, and have a little bit. Obviously there are sad moments, like I definitely love a sad song, but I really made a deliberate effort for the whole album to not be all that. And I think, by the time it comes out, which will hopefully be this summer, again, I don't think people are going to want sad music, I think that's the last thing we're going to want. So I think that probably did inform the course it took a little bit.
Sure. Well, I can't wait to hear it. Thank you so much for your time today, and can't wait to watch you play Enemies Girls to the Front next week.
Thank you so much for having me.